So, in a previous video, I showed you a treasure chest which holds silver. Because I'm talking about Bitcoins, I'm going to show you my Bitcoin treasure chest. Look at this. This right here is my Bitcoin treasure chest. You can fit an infinite amount of Bitcoin treasure in this treasure chest right here. Okay, so I don't own Bitcoins. I don't plan on buying any Bitcoins. I have been offered Bitcoins. There are people who are sending me messages saying that, if you understood Bitcoins, you'd like them, let me send you some free Bitcoins so you can get started and so forth. And actually, when the previous year, when I had met Da Vinci, we had a get together. He was showing people how to mine Bitcoins on their laptop and so forth. But of course, with a laptop, it would take a long time to get a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin on a laptop and so forth. But so I was offered kind of Bitcoins in those regards, but I haven't bought them. I don't plan on buying any of them. So, Max Keiser, the Bitcoin millionaire, he says, I'm a Bitcoin millionaire. Now, this could mean that he bought Bitcoins when they were low and now they're high, and he's made millions with Bitcoins. It could also mean that he took $1 million and bought Bitcoins and he has the same $1 million. Or it could mean he bought $2 million worth of Bitcoins. Now they're worth $1 million, so he's still a Bitcoin millionaire. I actually think it's the first one I said. I think that he bought Bitcoins and now they're way up and he's made over $1 million in Bitcoins. That's what I think. So in this interview, he's talking about Bitcoins. He says Satoshi, he's the kind of like this mysterious computer guy who's the founder of Bitcoins, is the cyber Christ. He says escape central banks with Bitcoins. He talks about people who have put their entire net worth into Bitcoins. He references Ron Paul. He says libertarians now embrace Bitcoin. He says banks hate Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the spear to take down JPMorgan, Goldman Sachs, Federal Reserve, Warren Buffett, and so forth. He says the stock market is trading at an all-time low to Bitcoins. The stock market is crashing compared to Bitcoins. He says that privacy is a new scarce resource. Privacy is what backs Bitcoin. Privacy collateralizes Bitcoins. So in the interview, Alex Jones asked Max Keiser to admit that he's involved with Bitcoins. And then later, Alex Jones says, Max Keiser, you created Bitcoins, right? So, I don't think Max Keiser necessarily has to be a creator of Bitcoin, but he is helping to create this market because, as I said before, it's all word of mouth. And they're saying the Bitcoin market is now, the worth is now like $500 million or so, which of course it was worth a fraction of that before. But of course, every billionaire in the world is worth over many times what the entire Bitcoin market is. And I think that if a billionaire had an interest in the Bitcoin concept, they would simply create their own Bitcoin system. How much money and time did it take for Satoshi or the founders to create Bitcoin? Sure, they were geniuses and they are clever and so forth, but a billionaire who has billions of dollars in resources, if they wanted a digital currency, they could hire someone or a group of people who were the best and the brightest in their field. Because I know computer programmers out there, the best and the brightest computer programmers will work for money. They will be hired by billionaires who would pay them a lot of money to create their own digital currency. They could do that. Okay, and in fact, they might create a better form of Bitcoins. For example, the people at Google, right, who are pretty freaking amazingly smart and good at programming. I've got 2 friends who work for Google, and these guys are so amazingly good at what they do, it boggles my mind how incredibly good they are. Of course, I'm not a top computer programmer, so I'm not like, the official judge in computer programming. I was a mainframe programmer, of course, so I was, what I did wasn't nearly as complicated as these guys. But anyhow, going back to the Bitcoin market. So yes, Max Keiser is a Bitcoin millionaire right now. So what I found interesting is that in this interview, if he had replaced the word Bitcoin with silver, it would be the same interview. For some of these Bitcoin things, right? If you replace the word Bitcoin for silver, almost everything is interchangeable in what they're saying about the spearhead to take down JPMorgan. It's, referring saying libertarians endorse this. Ron Paul, escape central banks. It's a lot of the same arguments, and that's kind of interesting, isn't it? And in the comments, so one of these comments says, all of you Bitcoin haters need to do a little research before discrediting it. So I see in the comments and people who defend Bitcoin saying, you're not educated, you don't get it, you don't understand, you haven't done your research. So I've heard those things in Bitcoins, right? I've heard those things that they're saying these trolls who hate Bitcoins haven't done their research, they're not educated, or they might even be shills. Maybe the people who hate Bitcoins, like on these YouTube channels who I watch, the people who maybe those people are actually shills hired by the Federal Reserve to protect the dollar. We've heard that argument before, haven't we? So anyhow, Bitcoins, I find it very fascinating, and I think the concept is very important. But what's happening right now, I'm not sure, I don't think, is where the real future is headed. I think that this is like an experiment, right? And in order to create something, you got to do many attempts for an invention before the right one comes forth. So yes, I was going to wear a Bitcoin Liberation Army uniform, but in order to do that, I'd have to be wearing no clothes, right? Because the Silver Liberation Army uniform is silver, but the Bitcoin Liberation Army is I wouldn't be wearing anything, and I decided to wear a shirt. Okay, so thanks for watching, and of course, I'm not telling you how to think about Bitcoins. I'm kind of telling you my own opinions. I'm kind of hinting about what I think. And thanks for watching. And isn't my Bitcoin treasure chest cool?